I saw videos circulating of a Karoline Leavitt voicemail that explains about everything you need to know about this government shutdown. We'll listen to that, talk about it, and then watch her at the podium accidentally expose her own argument. And so, as I'm sure you've been keeping up with, and I'll try to, without taking too much time on this throughout the segment, address again, we did a whole explanation, but again, in case you missed it, how Republicans are crafting this lie that Democrats are shutting down the government to give illegal immigrants health care, and where they're pulling that from and why it's wrong. Because I know that keeps being told, and so probably addressing it a couple times is important. But first, you can see this TikTok video saying this is the voicemail that plays when you call the White House during the government shutdown. And I think it emphasizes the reason Trump is literally off golfing right now. Not trying to be in Washington, negotiate, get a solution for the fact that a bunch of workers, thousands and thousands of workers, are either working without pay or furloughed, or they're getting permanently fired, or people aren't getting their services. Trump's golfing because they clearly want to play this blame game. And that's what this voicemail makes very clear. Listen.
Thank you for calling the White House comment line. Hello, America. This is White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Democrats in Congress have shut down the federal government because they care more about funding health care for illegal immigrants than they care about serving you, the American people. Until Democrats vote for the clean, Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the White House is unable to answer your call or respond to your questions. We look forward to hearing from you again very soon. And in the meantime, please know President Trump will never stop fighting for you. Thank you, and God bless you.
And I'll show you another one because it's not just that comment line. But I'm going to say this again. I know that this, what I'm about to say, is kind of like being concerned that a candle is lit in the bathroom and that's a fire hazard if you leave while the whole house is on fire. It's like, it's a little irrelevant given the extent of the corruption of the Trump administration, but that is a violation of the Hatch Act, okay? Leveraging official government comment lines, and they're getting education department, they're going in, not hacking, they have access to it, but like going in and changing without the permission of the employees their out of office email to say this is the fault of the Democrats without, and then there was a story we covered on the bonus show of an education department employee changing it back to just a normal amount of the office, and then it got changed back. So someone's going in there changing all the, they're so obsessed with branding this as a Democratic shutdown, despite a bunch of reasons we'll go through here. And again, the real principle not being, are you okay with the shutdown or are you not? But do you find what the two sides are demanding in this negotiation process reasonable? And which one do you lean towards? But to use the government in the ways they are that's so overtly political does violate what's supposed to separate official government offices from politics. But that's just cute and quaint. Now we look back on, did Obama say that in front of a presidential seal? And does that mean it's a violation of police? That's like that's a cute, I'd love to go back to caring about the Hatch Act. Not now. Too much going on to care about that, but it should be noted. And then this is the Small Business Administration voicemail.
Thank you for calling the U.S. Small Business Administration. Please listen carefully to the following message.
The radical left Democrats hate you because you are white and you are straight. They want you all to be ugly, non-binary, furry. Call back. This. I love the AI is actually even better than Karoline Leavitt. Hi, America. Please listen to the following message. The radical left communists, fascists, vermin living amongst us have shut down the government because they care more about a trans illegal immigrant than they care about you.
Senate Democrats voted to block a clean federal funding bill, H.R. 5371, leading to a government shutdown that is preventing the U.S. Small Business Administration from serving America's 36 million small businesses. Every day that Senate Democrats continue opposing a clean funding bill,
They are stopping an estimated 320 small businesses from accessing $170 million in SBA guaranteed funding. As a result of the shutdown, we wanted to notify you that many of our services supporting small businesses are currently unavailable. The agency is executing its lapse plan, and as soon as the shutdown is over, we are prepared to immediately return to the record-breaking services we were providing under the leadership of the Trump administration.
Jasmine Crockett is not a smart person. She is a dumb pants, and Trump is a smart person. Might as well be. And it is bad. Just so you know, it is bad that people can't get their services. It is. And hey, even Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, we're kind of responsible for this a little bit. She's accusing her party of playing games. While we continue to do this, please do, if you appreciate the show and this weekend content, click the subscribe button. It's free, but it supports the work that we do algorithmically right below the video. So she's accusing her party of quote-unquote playing games with shutdown. Republicans need to learn how to wield power. And she's calling on them to leverage the nuclear option, which I explained on the weekend live stream, getting rid of the filibuster, changing congressional rules so that they change the Senate rules to get rid of the filibuster and pass it with a simple majority. But that would then set up Democrats to, if they get in power, do the same thing, which they could also have done that at any point to pass different pieces of legislation, which is my problem with the filibuster. The Senate is already so unrepresentative. Why do we also have this 60 vote threshold to surpass the filibuster? Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Like the House. We don't, just simple majority works for me. And that's what she's saying on the government shutdown. Here's what you're not being told. If Republican senators wanted to pass the CR and reopen the government, they could by using the nuclear option to override the 60 vote rule and pass the CR with a simple majority. We have 53 Republican senators. So they are kind of choosing to keep us in the shutdown because they don't want to set that precedent, I guess, because they're afraid of what Democrats would do with that. But I think, as that voicemail shows, they just actually kind of like it. Trump likes it. He likes having these justifications, as he admitted in the interview that I showed you. He likes having justifications to rip programs apart, and he's saying he's going to cut off funding to programs that Democrats like illegally, even though that funding's already been allocated by Congress. And they like trying to hurt Democrats politically through this process, and I don't think Trump cares, to be honest. I mean, he's literally golfing through it. Like, what? Trump casually golfs his way through yet another national crisis. Again, I understand that, like, when Biden's president, okay, he ended up having a little scandalous moment there at the end. But through much of it, he was just kind of, like, cranking along. And so they would have to invent, this is a crisis, he's on the beach, while someone stubbed their toe. How dare he? He's on the beach when someone's on the toe. They would find, if there was anything, that's reducing it, it would be real crises-ish, but they would pretend like him ever vacationing while anything bad was happening, which there's always bad things happening when the president's in power, that proved he hated America completely, and they would do that. And I would go, yeah, I mean, I'd like if a president never vacationed. That'd be cool. Work hard. But every president vacations. Trump golfs like a third of his presidency or something crazy. So why are they selectively outraged? But now place yourself. Biden didn't have any shutdowns during his term. But if you had, imagine then that, maybe could you get up the beach video of him on the beach? Imagine we had the beach video of Biden sipping pina coladas with Jill on the beach while the government was shut down. That's the equivalent. Trump's golfing his way. President's Saturday outing comes. His administration throws the kitchen sink at Democrats, blaming the left for at least 750. Imagine if this video, really think to yourself, imagine if this video is such a good video. It's like, wait, Secret Service, is he okay? Is he okay? Oh, he's good. All right, we're good. Is he okay? Oh, there we go. Good. Movement. We got movement. POTUS. Rising bird is good. If they had this video, every single right-wing news outlet would be running with, he's on the beach while the government shut down. He hates you. And now Trump's doing the equivalent of that. And there's obviously not going to be any right-wing outrage. But it's hard for me to really care about this part of the story when there's so much more that is pressing and outrageous, like him justifying these insane dismantlings of agencies. But despite taking over people's emails so the outgoing emails say it's the radical left Democrats' fault and also I hate Jasmine Crockett. Trump brings that up every 2 seconds. It's kind of weird. And the phone lines all are saying this. They're all out there on the news saying this. Still, polling shows way more people think this is a Republican shutdown than a Democratic shutdown, which is interesting. And again, every time I say it that way, it sounds like I'm doing a team sport thing. First of all, it's just true. Second of all, I do want Democrats to get the concessions they're demanding as it pertains to healthcare. So yeah, I am rooting them on in that sense. And number three, the whole blame game thing is dumb. Trump's the president, as he used to say. Good governance means you can negotiate your way out of a shutdown. That was his argument before he was president, when he was criticizing Obama. You know what he also criticized Obama for? Golfing too much. Trump golfed way more than Obama. Okay. So here was Roger Marshall being like, that's a biased poll that shows 47% of Americans blame Trump and Republicans, 30%, 47 versus 30% blame Democrats, and 23% are not sure. I always love the not sure. I always want to meet those people who are like, oh, I don't know. But he goes, that's a biased poll. But then watch the second part.
That's because, and then none of their arguments make sense why they're trying to shut it down. It just doesn't make any sense to anybody. So I would just discount that poll altogether, and that's not what I'm hearing from back home.
Why do you discount that?
Well, I just think there's so much other polls that say just the opposite. I think that
Which one?
The arguments out there, I don't have them at my fingertips right now. I can tell you that's a very biased poll. I'm absolutely convinced that this is a political
Why is it biased?
shutdown.
Can you explain?
More I don't even know who was it from? I don't even know.
The Washington Post. I mean, if it's biased, you should know which one it is. It's the Washington Post poll.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can take a snapshot like that. What I'm hearing back home is that people think that this is a Schumer shutdown.
Yeah, that's Republicans.
What percentage of the time do you think when politicians cite people back home, they've actually talked to anyone back home? Like, aside from his wife back at home saying, yeah, this is a Schumer shutdown when he calls her, who has he been talking to back? They always use that, and you can use it to craft any narrative that you want. Well, people back where I'm from are saying it's a Schumer shutdown, which if I bumped into anyone here and was like, wow, government shutdown's crazy, and they're like, it's a Schumer shutdown. Be like, what the hell? I want to go Trump shutdown. It's just like such a talking point. And apparently everyone's real concerned with that back home, back where Roger Marshall's from. But in reality, all the polls I've seen show the same thing, which again aligns with what Trump used to argue. And then that's really funny that he goes, that's a biased poll. She's like, okay, who's it from? He's I don't know, but it's biased. I can see it coming from a mile away. Now, on this Marjorie Taylor Greene argument that, hey, it's kind of us who are choosing not to use the nuclear option to get this funding through. So in a sense, it's our fault that it's staying closed because we have the majority in everything. That kind of came up here too on CNN.
This is the reality. In 2024, when Democrats lost the election, we sat at this very table, maybe not this configuration of people, but I was told there was a mandate. The Republicans had a mandate that they were going to be able to govern and do whatever they want. Well, do what you want. Pass the bill. But you can't, because you know why? It's because it's not popular. And when people actually find out that they're...
It takes 60.
But then it's not a mandate.
That's
those two things can't be true. So you can't have, and if you don't have a mandate, then you have to negotiate. And if you don't negotiate, then you cannot govern.
I think it's extortion.
If you cannot govern, then you are not a leader.
Close down the government. It's extortion, not negotiation.
Republicans cannot
just a final
govern.
word.
Okay, I don't know who that is. Who's doing that dance while she's saying that? Extortion. It's extortion. I disagree with what she's saying, but I like the vibe. I do that a lot in debates when people start shouting. I just start like dancing and sort of singing my argument to see if I can throw them off their game. It's extortion. Oh, it's extortion. Just kind of. I always thought if someone came up to rob me, I would do something like that just to throw them off. Jade and I have talked about this. Someone's like, "Hey, give me your money." And I would go, gravity is working. And they're just like, what the hell? And then I'd be, bah, 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 wah, 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 wah. True story. So yeah, they went from saying it's a mandate. See, no one likes Democrats. No one needs Democrats. Y'all suck. You suck. To, can we get your votes? I thought you had the biggest mandate ever and you could do whatever you wanted. And if you don't, that means you do have to negotiate and they have some demands. So, all right, for this next part, I referenced the Leavitt press briefing moments I want to show you. Let me remind you, it is false that Democrats are trying to get health insurance for undocumented immigrants in this negotiation process. It's false. But where are they getting this from? And I'll just read the Associated Press this time. This is false, says Associated Press. Democrats say they are pushing for the inclusion of key healthcare provisions in the next congressional spending package. In particular, they're seeking to extend or seeking an extension of tax credits that millions of Americans use to buy insurance on the Affordable Care Act exchange, and a reversal of Medicaid cuts made in the bill Trump signed into law in July. However, immigrants in the United States illegally are not eligible for any federal health care programs, including insurance provided through the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid. Hospitals do receive, and this is the part we talked about, this is like, it's not even a kernel of truth. It's like, imagine a kernel had a baby, and that baby took a poop. That's the kernel of truth. That's the poop of truth that they're getting this all from, which is, okay, if we're going to say they're trying to get money for undocumented immigrants, is there any way, anywhere that Medicaid ever spends any money that could be perceived as benefiting an undocumented immigrant anywhere? That's where they get this from, which means hospitals do receive Medicaid reimbursement, which would be reduced under Trump's bill for emergency care that they are obligated to provide to people who meet other Medicaid eligibility requirements, but do not have an eligible immigration status, according to KFF, a nonprofit health policy research, polling, and news organization. This spending accounted for less than 1% of total Medicaid spending between fiscal year 2017-2023. So again, all this has to do with, which is where they're, whenever, most of the time they'll go, they're trying to do $1.5 trillion for illegals. It's just like, that's not even true. That's just a lie. But if you go, what do you even mean? Give me one example. They cite that specific provision, which is already, and this is not changing, under law, by law, if you, whatever your status is on any fronts, if you do have insurance, if you don't have, if you can't pay, if you can pay, if you are an undocumented immigrant, if you're not, if you have legal status, but you haven't yet gotten enrolled in Medicaid, but you don't have any money, and then you, regardless, if you go into an ER under life-threatening conditions, they're mandated to not turn you around for whatever reason. Makes sense. We don't want to get all caught up in paperwork when someone's about to die. But imagine, if you would, that someone is in that situation. They're not enrolled in Medicaid for whatever reason, or because they don't have legal status, and then they don't have money to pay. The hospital was just forced by the U.S. government, as they should be, and as all of them would want to anyways, because of, human stuff, to care for and stabilize, just life-threatening stuff, stabilize the individual. But now the hospital just used time and resources to do that, and if the person can't pay, we said, all right, since you're forced to do it, we're also going to have this funding to reimburse you so that the hospital doesn't have that financial burden. That's it. And it's a little tiny amount of money in the grand scheme of how much they're trying to cut. And it wouldn't change who's getting access to that emergency care, because that's already law and no one disagrees that you should just let them die. It would only change how much the hospitals get in funding, because sometimes they do have to care for people who don't have coverage. That's it. But they're not trying to change how much, undocumented immigrants can't get just normal health insurance through Medicaid federally. They can't get coverage through ACA. It's not changing that. It's not a big bucket of money being handed out. It's just trying to support the hospitals because of that law that was originally implemented under Reagan, a Republican. So that's all that this is about. And and the first time Leavitt was asked about it, they went, so do you think people should, if they show up in life-threatening conditions, the hospital shouldn't take care of them? And she was like, defer.
Karoline, should ERs check immigration status before I'm sorry?
Should ERs check for immigration status before treating a dying patient?
That's probably not a question for me to answer. I think that's a question for healthcare professionals and legal experts.
So she said, not a question for me. But then the next time she went to the podium, she got asked again, is the administration's position that hospitals should not have to treat people who come to ERs who are not here legally? So listen.
Thank you, Karoline. Two things. First, to follow up on something you said earlier about hospitals treating undocumented or illegal aliens. Is it the administration's position that hospitals should not have to treat people who come into the emergency department who are not here legally?
No, that's not our position. Our position is...
Nope. Don't need to hear the rest. You know the rest. Our position is that Biden let in, blah, 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 right? Okay. I guess. Let's see.
That it's completely unacceptable that the Biden administration paroled and...
There we go. And they let all the people in. They paroled everybody. And I've fact-checked those claims too. But, okay, well then then you are the one who won it. Because she just admitted, no, of course not. If you're about to die and you show up at an ER, I don't care who you are. Similar to if I were in a different country and I just went to Ukraine and I think the rule was, and I got stuck in Poland for a day. If I was like, you know what, I'm going to live it up in Poland for a second here. U.S. citizens don't have to get a visa for that travel. I think if it's under like 90 days or something. Imagine I fell in love. I met a nice Polish lad and we fell in love and we get married in 90 days. Wait, that might confuse it. Never mind. No, not married. We're just in love. And I'm like, I can't leave. And we're running down the street together and we're laughing and we're hugging and we're kissing. And then, boom. 91 days into that trip. Now I'm overstaying and I technically am undocumented. And a bus hits me. And my love is heartbroken and he drags my body to a hospital. I would want to make sure that as I'm about to die, they care for me. And obviously I'd be able to pay. But if I now imagine I lost all my money because I was betting in Poland and then I fall in love, lose my money. He's also doesn't have any money. And then that situation plays out. Pop. My love. Drag. We're back to the same place we were before. And then I'm out of focus. And I'm back in focus. Here we go. And I'm out of focus. Jane, if you could click me. The camera is going berserk. I'm sorry. I'm confusing it. And would I want them to just stabilize me at least? Yes. So that's not changing. And she disagreed. No, of course not. She disagreed. In the United States, we should do that. Okay. So then if you agree, all you're saying is the hospitals should get less subsidies so that they are, especially the hospitals with tough financial situations like rural hospitals, so that they are financially stable. That's all they're talking about, is reducing that funding for emergency Medicaid, which isn't just undocumented immigrants, but could impact, which is just what I just laid out. So she already agrees on the principle. We just think the hospitals, we don't want hospitals to struggle and not be able to function properly. And so on multiple fronts, not just that funding, but that's a part of a larger series of funding that they're ripping apart that are going to cause hospitals to shut down. And we're against that. And the specific provision they're pointing to is less than 1% of what we're even talking about. So it's a red herring. It's a Colonel's baby spoop. And that's what all this is. But then meanwhile, while MAGA's looking over here thinking that hospitals, and only about the hospital, should have less funding and reimbursements as it pertains to emergency response services because, hey, 3.5 undocumented immigrants could one day have the hospital subsidized whenever they almost die. While they're looking over there, the Trump administration is going to be ripping trillions. 3.8 billion. The baby. Trillions. Okay, year by year. So let's say over 10 years. You get it. Do the multiplication yourself, damn it. Over a decade, over $1 trillion they're going to rip out of Medicaid for Americans. They're the ones they're the large number that's going to be ripped off. So I do think we should support hospitals. I don't think we should change the law and make it to where people could bleed out on the doorstep and you not just stabilize them. And I think that whenever hospitals are forced to do that, they should be subsidized for it. Wow. Sometimes I think, why has a Democrat never explained that on TV that way? You know, it's like I just listened to myself and I went, what? The whole journey we just went on together. What? Who said that? Huh, me. to quote Trump, a man by the name of me. So that's the situation there, and she exposed herself by admitting, no, that's not her position, so she doesn't even know what she's talking about. Speaking of people who don't know what they're talking about, Hassett got asked about and this is the other part, the premiums question, the ACA subsidies literally has nothing to do with undocumented immigrants at all. They can't qualify for that. And they're not even getting it in an emergency. Nothing. And please remember, I said it, but again, because of the emergency, people are saying, well, then you admitted they don't get Medicaid coverage. Shh. As I just explained. But then ACA literally has nothing to do with it. So we're all going to be screaming about undocumented immigrants, this tiny, insignificant amount of money, emergency Medicaid response subsidies to hospitals, and as we're going to, they're going to keep resisting the Democratic pushback, and our premiums are going to go barrel. And then you ask one of the Trump administration officials, and he goes, wait, what's his accent? I think that we just need to wait and see.
So, but there will undoubtedly be some economic impact if the healthcare premiums skyrocket, right? I mean, if we don't see any kind of extension of this, how do you view the economic impact of it? You know, if they just go by the wayside?
We'll just have to wait and see what happens at the negotiation. We'll have to see where people end up.
I mean, it's 75% increase or more. I mean, you're talking about a big increase in premium.
But don't forget the 75% is off of a really low number. And so when you're looking at the dollar changes, then, a partisan would cite the percentages, because if you go from a small number to a slightly bigger number, then the percent change is huge.
If you go from a small number to a slightly bigger number, then it's a bigger number, but it's still smaller than the bigger number than it could be. If it were bigger, then it would be smaller than a bigger, larger.
Okay, that's his argument. Well, it's such a small number. You are paying so little anyways on insurance. What's a 75% increase on practically nothing? Is that how you feel? If this applies to you, is that how you feel? I'll show you the numbers in a second. We'll see if he's right.
CBO has said that. So CBO has been the one that said it's 75%, and people won't be.
I understand, but yes, it depends on where you are. In like for people who are like at the poverty level, then the subsidies are 100%. The people who are 4 times the poverty level, the subsidies are smaller. And then the question is, how much smaller should they be? And that's really the point where the debate is.
I sound like I'm being mean. I'm not being mean. So, just if you were thinking that, you're wrong. Like, we're just having fun. I know it's childish. I'm being childish. I get it. It's fine. Whatever. Just trying to navigate our way through crazy times. So he says it's just such a small number. 75% increase in your premiums. Who the hell cares? It's like saying 1 cent had a 75% increase. It's like, who cares? Okay. Well, let's see, because Steven Ratner will run the numbers on this.
I'm hearing the concept of even premiums tripling.
Yeah, so fewer people on health insurance means that health insurance companies raise prices for everyone who's buying through these marketplaces that were created under the ACA or Obamacare, because fewer people, it just makes it more expensive for them. And so you had 312 insurers already file for their rates for next year. And they're assuming that these things expire. That's what they have to. That's the current law. And when you look at these are all the different ones, but the point of it is 18% proposed rate change, not just for the people that I was talking about before, but for everybody who buys their insurance through the Obamacare marketplace. And then if you want to take a look at what this means for a representative family, take a 55-year-old couple making $85,000 a year. Their insurance bill at the moment is $7,225, thanks to the subsidies that we talked about. The subsidies go away. Their bill goes to $20,792. But then you have what I talked about a minute ago, that premiums just go up in general because fewer people are on insurance.
So you get the point. Look at those charts. Does that seem like it's just so tiny? $20,000? It's like, who cares? What's $20,000? I spent that on my dominatrix. Kevin Hassett might say.
I spent that on my dominatrix.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I take that back. I'm embarrassed by my behavior, frankly. I just lost myself a little bit in that segment. So no, I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd. That's a massive amount of money. And that's what Democrats are trying to undo. And I think that's perfectly reasonable.